Welcome to the Digital Remodeler Podcast. We're so glad to have you today, and joining me is Rick Harris with Work Boot Consulting. Rick, so glad to have you today, and looking forward to our conversation.
Yeah, thanks, Carl. Right back at you.
So, Rick, tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about Work Boot Consulting, and then we'll kind of dive into our topics for today.
For sure. So my background is in the trades. So I went to work with my dad at a very small plumbing company. So I went from the trenches to actually helping grow that company, and then buying my shares into the business. And never went to college, and never went to university. Anything that I have learned, I was either taught or I read a book, or I learned by failing and trying something else that would be better. So when I sold my shares in the business to my brother, I moved on, and we had coaches and consultants helping us. But in that entire process, they weren't me. They weren't, they were good. I'm not saying that they weren't good, but they weren't me. They didn't go through the trades process. They weren't the guys that had done the apprenticeship and all the other stuff. So I looked at what they're doing, and it's like, I want to do that. So when I sold my shares, I hired my own personal coach, and she said, "You're a teacher, go teach." It's like, okay, what do I do? She said, "That's your journey to take." So went on that journey, and got a job with a coaching company, and ended up working my way up to being head of coaching. And about 3 and a bit years ago, I decided I wanted to do my own thing. I wanted to serve a different kind of client than they were serving. So I started this, and here we are.
Very good. You brought up something that I think is critical, and that's the difference between what I call technicians and practitioners. Now, there are
Mm,
people who understand theory, and then
yep.
there are people who've actually done it.
Yeah.
And that really seems to be kind of the maybe the journey you kind of went through of realizing that there are people who understand great theory,
Hmm.
but theory kind of falls apart sometimes in the field. And
Yeah, it does. And so it's interesting that they know I'm a recovering contractor because of the way the things I say. There's a language that unless you've been inside that circle, you don't get that language. You don't get it. And yeah, and unless you've walked, and I'm not saying, people who haven't gone through there, people with MBAs and all this stuff can't help with contractors, but there's a bit more of a gap there. So by being somebody that has walked in their boots, there's just that credibility. And it's Ed Milet who said, "What better person to help a recovering alcoholic than another recovering alcoholic?" So not to say that we're doing a 12-step program, but there are certain things that if you haven't been there, you don't understand it. To the point of there's a saying that sales fixes everything, and it's like, whoa, 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 whoa. It can, but it can also blow up your business and expose all of the warts that you have inside of it. So be careful what you wish for sometimes.
good advice. Yeah, it definitely will make the wheels fall off quicker. So
Yeah.
very well said. So let's talk about one of these things that I think every contractor is dealing with right now. That's finding and keeping skilled labor. What's the first thing a small contractor can do to stop that revolving door that just seems to be taking place and kind of affecting a lot of people right now?
Well, number one, I would try and figure out where you want to go with your business, number one. Otherwise, it's just a run of a ship bouncing from port to port to port. And if you've ever taken a cruise, if you ever get on a cruise ship and you ask the team, where are we going? We're not really sure. When are we going to get there? We're not really sure. How long is this going to take? I'm not really sure. Look at your business as a ship, and if it doesn't have a destination, nobody wants to get on that ship, and if they do, they're going to want to get off. Treat your team as your first customer. I mean, everybody looks at their clients as they're so they're so valuable to lose them. But if you don't have a team to serve those clients, then you don't have a business. So treat your team members like gold. Um, love on them, show them appreciation, know that there is a boundary there. I said that this to a guy this morning that I worked for my dad, and I still feared my dad. There were times when like he would walk in the office, and even if I wasn't doing anything wrong, I'd sit up straight. So
Mhm.
there's that respect that comes along with it. Um, treat them as if they're going to leave, and do everything in your power to keep them on board. And here's a statistic, and I can't recall where I heard it from, and it may be the numbers may be slightly askew. 20% of your team members love what you're doing. They're on board and they think you're the best thing that has ever walked the face of the earth. 60% of your team just is in the boat and they're like, yeah, okay, we'll go wherever we're going, and they're happy go lucky. But 20% of your team is in the back drilling holes in it. So if you spend all the time putting out fires and not paying attention to your team, you're going to have that 20% that's drilling holes in the back of your boat. And when those 20% leave, they don't leave by themselves. They take one or two people with them and go start their own business because they think they can do better, that they're underappreciated. So I was talking to a client this morning, and they said, how do I reward somebody for a job well done if they've met the targets and the metrics and everything else? And he said, well, we'll give them money. I said, well, hold on a second. Is that really what that individual wants?
Mhm.
I said, maybe, just maybe, a paid day off or a paid couple of days off would be much more beneficial and appreciated by them. So you have to know your team, you have to lead them. There's a whole million different moving pieces, but the first one is find a destination for your business, appreciate your team members, show them appreciation, and show them that there's a direction, there's opportunity.
That's good. I think knowing the individual is so critical. Sometimes the easy answer is, I'll just give you more money."
Mm-hmm.
But we're finding more and more, especially with the younger generation, money is not always the motivator.
Mm, no, it is not. It is. I come from a generation where you got money and then you did things, and you planned and you followed a path, and you didn't go on vacation to any really cool places unless you could really afford it. The way I see the people that are coming through now is they want experiences, they want to live life to the fullest. Life has gotten very expensive, so having experiences and working somewhere where they're appreciated and they feel part of the system, that what they're doing contributes to the overall cause and purpose and good of the where they are. And I'll tell you, the long gone are the days where somebody will start at a company and be there, 30, 35 years later. And I've seen and I've heard younger people start with a company that has a really wobbly, wonking onboarding process for their first day. And on their first day, they turn around and they walk out. I'm out,
Hmm.
not doing this. And that's how quickly it can happen because they're not afraid to not show up, not do their thing. And because if it's something that's not going to, they don't feel appreciated, they don't feel part of in part of the system, they'll walk. So, and I'm sorry, as my coach said to me one time, that's a you problem if that's happening to you. Don't blame the new generation. It's you.
Very much so. And now you talk about building a culture of excellence on the job site. And if you're working with a crew of, three or up to 10 people, what does that really look like in action? How do you build that culture of excellence?
Core values, we want them, you know, things that are acceptable and things that are not acceptable. I said this morning to a group of people that you cannot manage people, myself included. but you put a system in place and put those people inside of the system, you can manage that system, and that system is core values. And I always go back to Chick-fil-A because it's the easiest one. What is the number one thing you know about Chick-fil-A when it comes to going into the restaurant and buying something? What is it? What's the number one thing that pops to mind? What
Uh,
what day what day can't you go there by
you
something?
can't go there on Sunday.
Bingo. And they are unafraid to say that we are a Christian company.
Mhm.
Unafraid. This is who we are. So everybody knows that. So that's the number one thing that comes along with it. The Christian values that come along with it. And you don't have to be a Christian, but you have to have those values, those things that they believe in. And going in there, it is not about the food at all. It is not about what they do. It's how they do it. I went in there one time because I live up in Canada and we didn't have a Chick-fil-A. I've been down to the US, I don't know how many times. And I always said, I've never been to a Cracker Barrel and I've never been to a Chick-fil-A. That's my goal, was to go to a Cracker Barrel. Still haven't been to one, but I went into a Chick-fil-A because they opened up one in the neighborhood. And I couldn't couldn't wait to go in there. Not for the food, but for the experience. And I was blown away. I got up, I finished my meal. I said, sir, I got it. I'll take that tray from you. I got that. I got you. And she said, I don't want to drink. And she said, well, would you like a water? I said, well, that would be amazing. So it is the core values. It is what you believe in. And this is the way we do things here. This is the ABC way of doing things at our company. You know, we're respectful, we're kind, we're caring, we're nurturing. We don't accept substandard effort. We don't accept whatever it is, whatever those core values are. And if you take some time to develop those core values, things that really mean something to you, it's a whole lot easier for your team to say, okay, great, I get it. This is not acceptable because it's a core value. So you manage your team based on those core values. And if you don't have core values, you don't have a vision, you don't have a mission, then it's just bing, 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 and you get what you get.
Absolutely. Now you alluded to systems, and I think
Mm-hmm.
that's critical because uh, too many people are trying to muscle their way through
Mm-hmm.
longer hours. If I just push harder, grind harder, push my people harder,
Yeah.
we're gonna break through
Mm-hmm.
instead of using systems to do the
Yeah.
heavy lifting.
Mm-hmm.
And so, how do you help a contractor move from this grunt and grind? I'm just going to power my way through to working smarter, more efficiently, and really becoming more of a field general of systems and resources.
Great question. Um, I always get somebody saying to me, I need some systems and processes in my business. I said, well, you already have. They're just probably really crap. Or you may have some good ones in there, but other ones are not working so well. So when it comes to creating a process, you already have a process in place by default. Like this is how you do things. It could be random, but you generally have a process. So the first thing, I have some Lean Six Sigma training, which means it's all about systems and processes, Kaizen, constant improvement, and everything else. So the purpose of Lean Six Sigma overall is to continuously improve a process, define bottlenecks, define where things are broken, essentially. So, and that's done through process maps, just like a wiring diagram, if then this. So what I'll do with a client is I'll say, tell me your process point by point. I said, you can write it down on a pad of paper and send me a picture. I don't really care. Or just tell me and I'll write it down in bullet point form. What are the steps? All the way down. If you have 10 steps, give me those 10 steps. I will take them, but they have to be sequential. So I will take those sequential steps and I'll lay them out in a process map. Bing, 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 bing. Then once that's created, I'll sit down with them and we'll say, okay, here's your process. Do you see any issues in here? where there could be a delay, a bottleneck, something missed, maybe there's something called perceived customer value. So if you're doing something that you think the client really thinks is of great value, and the customer really could care less whether you did it or not, and it costs you money, whether it's time or actual money, you have to stop it. So I had a client who said that he would contact his clients every single day when the job is in permitting. So, okay, so the job hasn't started yet. And he said, no. And I said, so why are you calling these people every single day to let them know the permit hasn't been pulled yet? It hasn't been approved yet. He said, well, I just want to keep them updated. I said, you know what you do to me if you did that? Is you cheese me off and I tell you to stop it. So that is the process. Every single thing that you do has a process. Whether, think about going to bed, there's a process. You do this, this, and this. So that's a process. Getting up in the morning, that's a process. There's a process that you follow. It's a recipe. Whether you're making whatever you're grilling food or whatever it is, you have those processes inside of your business. And a lot of contractors chase the dopamine of a lead, an estimate, a book job, a completed job, and a check. And that's it. That's the dopamine that they crave. And as James Clear said in Atomic Habits, that the anticipation of a reward is more exciting than the actual reward. So it's a cycle of this. And if you don't have a process to kind of level things out, you're just going to be chasing that dopamine hit forever and ever and ever and ever. So you have to have a process, because if you don't have a recipe, how can you duplicate what you're doing time after time after time after time? That's why McDonald's has got a process for everything. That's why they hired 13. That's why I worked at McDonald's when I was a punk little kid and was cooking food, but really couldn't cook my own food at home. But I was cooking you a meal.
Mm-hmm. That's it. Yeah. Reproducible, scalable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure you've heard many contractors tell you this, that, their people just don't care as much as they do. And there's some truth to that. But how do you coach that business owner to change the mindset, to shift the mindset so that there actually is accountability within their team?
I asked the guy, a business owner asked me that same question. So this was a guy with an $8 million drywall company. $8 million in revenue, and he's probably up to 10 now, just doing drywall. So he said to me, why does everybody around here just look at this as a job? I said, well, where are you going? So I don't really know. I said, well, what do you expect? The experience with all of them is just transactional. And he's a really nice guy, but it was a transactional relationship. It was adversarial, where it was us against them. He really didn't learn how to communicate with his team. I'm certified in DISC, and which is like, and I'm not saying it's the be all to end all, but it is a way of understanding how people think and act, and how they give information and how they receive information. And business owners are wired in a way that the people that work there are not. So by process of elimination, if you've got one person who is this way, but you got 25 people who are wired the other way, who's the one that's got to change? It's not your team, it's you. So you have to learn how to communicate with them. You will have to learn how to adapt to them. You have to learn how to ultimately connect with them. If you're not, and so this is the thing. So if you're not connecting with your team, they're not listening to you. If they're not listening to you, they're not following you, which means that you're not leading them, you're just managing them. So that's why they look at you as probably the biggest fool that ever walked the face of the earth, and they will follow you based on the lowest level of leadership, which is just because you're the boss. That's the only reason they follow you. That's it.
That's good. That's good.
Thanks.
I think that's so critical is back to understanding your people,
Hmm.
but being willing to make that adjustment, being the leader you have to be to bring out the best in the people that you lead. So fantastic advice. What's a mistake that you commonly see the contractors you're working with make when they're trying to grow? And what's the better alternative?
Not knowing their numbers, not knowing how much it costs to do business, not knowing, where what profitable work is, not knowing what could be profitable work is, and on paper it is, but when they actually go out and do it, they blow their brains out because their systems aren't in place. And it's interesting. I had an accountant call me one time and said, I got a client who has $200,000 worth of unbillable labor. I said, okay, what do they do? HVAC installers. Great. I said, that's an easy fix. Easy fix. Took me a week to fix it, 3 months to make sure that it stayed in place, and then it was done. It was over. Simple. It was just simply a process. So if you don't, so this is the question I always have for my clients. It said, do you have an accountant? Yeah. How often do you meet with them? Once a year. Okay. You don't have an accountant, you have somebody that does your taxes. Right. But I have a bookkeeper. I said, okay, can your bookkeeper take those reports and break them down for you and show you where things are off? Your overhead's too high, your labor ratio is off, your efficiencies are off. Can they do that? No. I said, okay, then you're going to need to find somebody who can give you that financial advice to take those numbers and interpret them for you and tell you what they mean. And it's not me. I have a basic understanding of it. But if you want an expert, you get an expert in there to say this is what's going on. It's like going to see your GP with a broken arm. Yeah, they could probably set it for you. They could probably get it in place, but nah, let's send you off to the hospital, get it properly, get x-rays and everything else on it. That's me. If we want to get those numbers really dialed in, you need to have an accountant. And I can't, but it's the numbers. It is just know your numbers. And if you want, I got it right here beside me. Simple Numbers, Straight Talk, Big Profits by Greg Crabtree. Go grab that book. The first thing he says in that book is pay yourself a salary. Because if you're not paying yourself a salary, what happens when you try and replace that position, that job that you're doing? All of a sudden you have to introduce that into your overhead, right? Somewhere in your expenses, fixed or variable. And then say you've got $1 million company and you made, how much should somebody being paid that to run a company like that? I would say at least $100,000 a year, right? Your profit is $150,000. You think, this is great, but you haven't pulled the salary out of the business. You haven't given yourself a salary. So what really is the profit on that business? Right? It's 50,000. It's not 150. So you're selling yourself short. It is the numbers. It is the numbers. So the first thing you need to do is you got to get yourself a bookkeeper. You got to get yourself an accountant. At a certain level, you should be seeing your accountant quarterly, just to make sure that you're okay. Teach me how to do job costing. Teach me how to price my jobs. Show me what my overhead is. And you outsource that. Once you get to a certain level, you bring it in-house. You should have somebody in-house doing the thing. Personally, I would have one person do the bookkeeping, one person do the accounting, one person do your taxes. So that if something's broken, it's like you're the one. You messed it up. So I can't stress enough about the money. It is the fuel for your business. You got know your numbers. If nothing else, know your numbers.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. I of course, coming from the marketing side, we see the same thing. First question I'm always asking, what's the most profitable thing that we're trying to target? And
Yep.
you see the glazed look come over the
Oh,
eyes.
I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
yeah, if we're going to spend money to advertise, why don't we advertise for the things that make you money? So,
Oh, absolutely. God bless this gentleman. He said to me, they do large builds, like they do additions, design build and everything else. So I said, what's your close ratio for leads that come in? He said, 40, 50%. Great. And he said, I need a marketing guy to get me 25 qualified leads a month. I said, great. So you can handle 12 projects a month. He said, well, no. I said, well, I said, you got to be careful what you wish for. And I said, asking somebody to bring you 25 qualified leads per month for projects that are $250,000 and up is a pretty big ask.
yeah, yeah, know your
So
numbers.
yeah, know them. Or if you know your numbers, know what they mean.
And your
Yeah,
capacity and all those things.
right. Yeah, absolutely.
Good. So, you've worked with contractors across North America.
Mhm.
What's one of your favorite stories where somebody has made a great turnaround by focusing on people and process?
Plumbing contractor down in the Lake Tahoe area, in Truckee, and Mitch is his name. And not a big company, but man, like super profitable, just like unbelievably profitable. So we took a look at things and worked on a couple of processes of how to tighten things up, how to raise your prices, how to be a little bit more selective, but basically tightening up his process. It's just a communication process to his team. So the guys weren't running to the supply house and all these other types of things. And then pushing things along. It was a 40% increase in gross revenue, not adding anything to his overhead or his fixed expenses, and he still maintained that net profit. And I hopped on a call with him one day and he said, I don't think I've ever had so much money in the bank, which is how most contractors by default see success of their business. And it was just phenomenal to see the success that he's had. And to think that I played a small part in that is really impactful for me. And I said to him, I said, I knew my business model was broken. I should have just charged you a low rate and then take a percentage of the increase, which some people do.
Yeah, yeah, that's good. So,
Yeah.
we talked earlier, this younger generation,
Mhm.
particularly Gen Z. Uh,
Yeah.
Sometimes everybody says, "Man, they're just hard to work with." How do
Mhm.
you retain them? Obviously, their motivations are a little different, but we talked a little bit about how to connect with them. They're very experience driven. Any
Mhm.
other tips you have for really connecting with and retaining this younger generation within the trades?
Well, every generation that comes along is going to be the, it will lead to the downfall of society. I mean, you go back to the turn of the century. I mean, the turn of the last century, not the turn of the current century. But every generation was going to be the downfall of the existing generation. These the people that work with you who are the Gen Zs, it is time to get to know them. It's time to understand that they were raised by helicopter parents who hovered over them to make sure that everything was okay, that they constantly got rewarded with the participant medals and everything else. And not saying that that is wrong for them, that blame the helicopter parents. And I'm part of that generation of the helicopter parents. But making sure that you genuinely care about them, that you get to know them, that they feel a part of it, because a lot of these young people have never had anybody really care about them. They may have come from a home where the parents didn't give them a lot of guidance, didn't give them a lot of supervision, didn't give them a lot of feedback, didn't give them rules and guidance and say this is how we do things. So a lot of them are craving that. They're also craving the appreciation. They're also craving experiences. So when I say experiences and love on your team, take them out and do things that they like to do as a group. Now, if they want to do, it's not pizza parties, it's taking them out golfing, fishing, axe throwing, whatever it is that they like to do. They like to go hiking, rock climbing, take them out for the day and go do that. Show them that they're appreciated, show them that they're wanted. So that's my thought on it. You can disagree, that's fine. But
Yeah,
that's my opinion.
very good. And then, as a contractor is really looking long term, and they start looking towards succession planning or even the long term freedom aspect, even if they're still swinging the hammer at this time, how do they start that planning process, that preparation process? Mentally and even strategically. I know you brought in, I think, some key points. Having the right team around them financially. Any
Mm-hmm.
other things that you think are critical in that preparation process?
Decide what success looks like to you. I mean, if you want to live the kind of life where you are living in Fiji in a hut on the water, then you better get your button gear and make sure that you got a big stash of money coming with you. But if success and freedom and stepping away from your business means that you live the type of life where you can still continue to work or do something else, and that needs to be done with the help of somebody who can do financial planning for you and all those other things. So know what it is you need to feed that nut. But going in and making sure that you have a properly systemized business with clients, not just with transactional customers, that you do repeat work for, that you do referral work for, that you have a proper system set up, that you know your numbers, that you know how your team works. You have an onboarding process, you have a training process, you have a you know your profits, you know what your cash flow looks like, you know your sales, you know your marketing. You have a full franchise-like system operating for you. And if you're in the service business where you do service work or you're in and out with other people, make sure that there's recurring revenue on that you have a list of maintenance agreements with people. And contractors who do builds, whether they're framers or builders or this, that you do project work, you need a service division inside of that business. And you could think that is insane. Why would you need a service division? That is your recurring revenue. That is how you lock clients up. That's how you keep them from going somewhere else. And that's the thin edge of the wedge to get back in there for more projects. Those are the types of things that you need to do. Think of a way to develop a service department in your business, whatever it is. And it doesn't have to be particularly complex, but you need to talk to a specialist too, to interpret what those numbers mean, what they mean. The valuation of it. People have this inflated view. It's 5 times earnings. Yeah, but 5 times earnings for 5 consistent years with a good system. So you have to. That's a specialty process to get a valuation of it. But if you are flying by the seat of your pants and revenues up and down all over the place, you will never have a business you can sell. And that's okay if you don't want a business that you can sell. But if you want a business that you can sell, you have to have systems and processes in place. Good, repeatable systems and processes in place.
As you've dealt with contractors, you've seen the good and you've seen the
Mm-hmm.
great.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the one behavior or belief that you see consistently that separates the high performers from the rest of the field?
They control their time. They know how important strategic work is for their business. They don't get sucked out in the field. They're in the field when they want to be in the field. And if you want to be in the field and you still want to be having a nail pouch on your hip, God love you if that's what you want to do. But you can't do that all the time. The ones who get poop done are the ones who know that I need to block off time in my calendar to work on my business, to develop the plans to develop, and that's not at 9 o'clock at night after you put the kids to bed. That's during a normal business hour, and they control their calendar. As I said this morning to somebody, I asked them, I said, show of hands, you got two choices: $100,000 project that you just closed on, or 2 weeks off where you can take your family on vacation and unplug from your business, but your business still runs along. Half the people in the room wanted the 100 grand. The other half said, I want the 2 weeks off. I said, the people with your right hand up who want 2 weeks off, you're the people I want to talk to, because you can always get more money. Easy to get 100 grand if you're doing contracting work. Try and get 2 weeks back. Nobody's giving you 2 weeks back. It's not happening. So it's controlling your time, and it's not management. It's control. You need to control your time.
Good. And then final question for you as we kind of wind down our time together. Here we are at the midpoint of 2025. And for anybody listening today, what's the one thing they need to do right now to position themselves for growth and good clarity and sanity in 2026?
Well, you want me to be a soothsayer? Well, number one, it's not what you do. Get that out of your head. And like, I've talked to contractors in the past. They said, well, we offer free estimates. Yes, what? We offer quality work. Yeah, whatever. 24/7. Yeah, whatever. I said, you're all the same. You all have the same message. It's how people feel when they deal with you. That's what you want. Number one, don't make it difficult for people to do business with you, because they won't. That would be the number one thing I would do, is figure out, how can I be different? How can I make people feel that they love me? I mean, I go back to when I was a contractor. We did interior renovations, not giant projects, but decent size. Get invited to Christmas dinner. How many contractors do you know get invited to Christmas dinner? And because they love the experience with me. That would be number one, is figure that out. Success for 2026, start planning it now. I write down where the things that aren't working, that you want to make better. And you brought up a great point. What is the work that we're doing that is profitable? What are the work that we're doing that is not profitable? Can we take the non-profitable work and make it profitable? If not, stop doing it. And then take the profitable work that you can do and go get more of it. Go find more of the best clients and put it in a plan, lay it all out. Does not have to be fancy. It can just be a piece of Bristol board, cardboard, whatever, and break it down month by month, what it is you're going to do. Sticky notes, whatever, put them all up on the wall. That's how, and just come up with some sort of a plan. Stick to it as best you can, knowing that sometimes life happens and delays happen. If you know of anybody that has gone further than you and is ahead of you, that is very successful, call them up and take them out for lunch. Spend some time with them. Find a mentor, whether you pay for one or not. Hang out with other people who do work similar to you. The people that have the abundance mindset are happy to share what goes well with them. Find those people. If you want to hire a consultant, take your time to find one. Make sure that it's a fit for you. If you want to, and understand there's a difference between a coach and a consultant. A coach will push you to do the work. A consultant will help you do the work. So whether you find an EOS implementer, whether you find a scaling up coach, a consultant, whether you join a peer group, whether you hang out with a bunch of guys and you work on stuff together, just go do something. But have a plan and get people to help you. And don't be afraid to ask for help. You know, contractors are liars. They are. They're liars. I'm a contractor. I was a contractor, so I admit it. Anybody ever ask me how things are going? What did I always tell them?
Great.
Great, couldn't be better. Meanwhile, inside you're dying. It's just like, so understand that just because you talk to somebody and they say things are great doesn't mean you're telling the truth, because you wouldn't tell the truth either. So have those open and honest conversations with your competition. Take them out. Be friends with them. If they have the right mindset, and it may take them a little bit of time to understand that you're not trying to steal their lunch money, that you're trying to help each other, you're trying to raise the bar for everybody. You're never going to be able to compete against the truck in the truck. Never, never, never. So I mean, there's a saying goes that if you're not if you're the cheapest, you better be the fastest.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't want to compete against those guys. You may have been one, or maybe you still are one, but you want to get out of that and surround yourself with people that are like-minded. They could be in a completely different industry too. They could be in, I don't know, they could be a dentist. How do you do things at your office? Maybe I should do that. It's not what you do, it's how you do it.
Good. Yeah. Great advice. Great advice. So Rick,
Yes.
where can somebody learn more about you? Where can they connect with you and really get more in touch with what you're doing?
Absolutely. You can shoot me an email, rick@workbootconsulting.com, or go to my website, workbootconsulting.com. I've got tons of free resources that I'll shoot your way. I've got really cool entry-level programs just for contractors. We meet as a group, we help each other out, raise the bar for everybody. And then I have one-to-one options. I have, yes, shoot me a message. More than happy. And if you just want to hop on the phone and shoot the crap, send me a message and we'll shoot the crap. I'll see what I can do to help you. And I know that I can't help everybody, and I know that I'm not everybody's cup of tea, and that's okay. But shoot me a message and we'll have a conversation.
Absolutely. And just a little tickler preview. Rick and myself are going to be speaking in a virtual live event next month. And so we want to invite all of our listening audience out there. We're going to be talking operations and marketing and a lot of those different pain points that you as contractors face. And so we'd love to have you join us there as well. And so, Rick, thanks for joining me today on the podcast, and
Appreciate it.
looking forward to our future conversations as well.
You bet. Thanks, Carl.